All right. Welcome, everybody, to our Fall 2025 Capstone presentations. We have mostly web and software students in this group, but we do have one data and analytics student and one data project as well. So, our agenda today, quick introduction by me. I'm Nikki. I think I know all of you, but I am the lead instructor in our data and AI programs, and I run the Capstone course. We're going to start off with our health system project, the birth registry module. Then we'll move on to our starter app project and our welding data project. So, health system students, are you ready to take it away?
Yes, we are.
All right, I will stop my share and let you go.
Hold on. I need to tap the screen. Yeah, tap it. Did this happen last time? Okay. All right. Sorry about that. So, our group did was working on the WCTC health system, and we integrated a birth registry module into the application. There was previously an existing application, although we didn't get a chance to see it. So we adapted the database that was created already into work with the new registry module. And then it made it easier to connect to like the real patients in the facility and provider information rather than having to manually write it down in the form that was provided to us. And then it allows health students to enter birth registry information into a digital system just like they would in like real hospital setting, such as using Epic or Oracle Health. And then this helps students get hands-on experience with real-world documentation, accuracy, and the clinical workflow in a safe learning environment. And then it's part of the WCTC health system where students enter birth information into a computer instead of filling out the paper form, which helps students get the practice they need in real life.
Hey,
So,
Peyton, I'm just going to interrupt really quick. You have me kind of displayed in the bottom, and everybody is able to see that on Zoom. So it's
all
blocking
right,
the text. That's okay.
there we go. Okay. So this is our product owner, Angela Lee. She kind of gave us guidance on what we're going to be doing for the project. Why doesn't this? There we go.
Hi,
Hi,
I'm
I'm
Mitch,
Mitch,
and
and
I
I'm
was a Scrum Master.
I'll just talk. You're good. My microphone's okay. Everybody else has to talk. Yeah, you can talk to. Oh,
Hey everybody, my name is Brandon and I was the developer.
Emily, and I was also a developer on this project.
all
Emily,
right.
we
And
can
then
hardly hear you, so next time you're speaking, make sure we can hear you.
okay, and then I'm Peyton. You guys already heard me talk, but I was another developer on the project. And then, so just a brief overview of the application. It was a birth registry module that we integrated into the existing WCTC health system. Some of the technologies we used was Bootstrap 4, which is kind of the styling and control flow components of the front end. So basically, what makes everything look nice and pretty. .NET, which is kind of like it's a framework, so it incorporates all of the technologies below. So C Sharp is the programming language we used for it. SQL database and entity framework kind of coincide with one another. Entity framework makes it easier for us to put data into the database without us having to write raw SQL queries. And then .NET Razor is what we used for kind of the front end and back end. It allows us to render the app or registry on the server and then send it to the client for a bit faster speeds. And then also allows us to bind the database and from entity framework into the final like rendered view that you see on the client. And then we also use the model view controller pattern, which is pretty much just a way to help us keep everything organized, all the data organized, and then it's easier for us to like control what the user ends up seeing on their system.
Okay, so the business problem we faced was HIT students need practice entering in clinical data. In the beginning, we started off with only a physical paper form, and we needed a way to kind of convert that into a web form. And then this would kind of give the HIT students an opportunity to enter in birth information, which we solved with our application. Um,
I'm sorry.
And so, yeah, this basically gives students a chance to enter in clinical data in the form itself. And they're able to go and look and view past records and present records. And it allows them to kind of enter in information physically or digitally and not physically.
Can I just stop you guys a quick second? Are we supposed to be seeing something other than your faces? Because it sounds, Peyton, like you're advancing slides, but all we see are whoever's talking, or at least that's all I'm seeing.
I can see the
I can see
PowerPoint.
them too.
Oh,
The sl-
sorry.
slides.
Got it.
Yeah.
That would
Okay.
be an alley glitch. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, we're not echoing, are we? I just
No.
can't mute my microphone, so. Yeah, just talk. Just really good. That's fine.
So without a digital solution, HIT students risk entering the workforce without experiencing being able to navigate births in a clinical setting. And our solution kind of bridges the gap so that students can get kind of real world experience entering in clinical information in kind of a hospital setting. And this kind of gives students an opportunity to practice entering information before they enter the workforce. And so some of the values provided are that we're kind of giving them hands-on practical experience entering in births. And the cool thing about our form is that it progressively saves as you progress through the partials, the different parts of the form, and it allows you to come back and fill out the birth in the future. If you say you timed out or you had to go and do something, you can come back to it and fill it out. It's searchable and sortable, so if you wanted to find your specific birth registry that you were entering in, you could go back and search for that one and it would be marked complete or incomplete, and that way you'd be able to tell whether or not you need to finish it. And it is printable, so after you're done and completed with the birth registry, you can go and print it and you can turn that in.
All right. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, perfect. Awesome. Well, I'm Brandon, like I said before, a developer on the project. You guys are probably wondering why this project received so much focus. Basically, it played a key role in improving the health information technologies curriculum. We built the birth registry form, which allows students to be able to create, read, update, and view records in a realistic work-like environment. Not only did it have the value that it added to the HIT program, but it was a huge learning experience for us as developers as well. We got a taste of what it would be like to work within the industry by collaborating on software that will actually be utilized by students. Along the way, we got to practice with Scrum and Agile development, which taught us some very important things such as iterative development, collaboration, and adapting to changing requirements. One of the biggest challenges, yet also a great learning opportunity, was to work with a massive pre-existing code base. It had hundreds of files working together, so navigating that structure gave each one of us some insight on how large projects are organized and maintained. Ultimately, this project taught us teamwork and to not just work as an individual. We learned how to collaborate, responsibilities, and bring together everything into what I think is a very cool project. Got a guest here. All right. Needless to say, this project didn't come easy. We faced many challenges. One of them was navigating the existing code base. We had to plug our new module into an existing .NET system, which meant we basically had to go through and learn how everything worked before we could make changes ourselves. Developer collaboration, working as a team was huge for this project's success. We had to split tasks up efficiently and make sure everything fit together without breaking anything, which did happen more than I would like to admit. Version control was another challenge that we faced, which kind of ties into the developer collaboration. We had to learn how to manage our individual branches, merge code, and keep everything organized as a team. Uh, we also had some database obstacles. We ran into some database issues that took quite some time to troubleshoot. And then team communication was a challenge. Communication's obviously key, and a project like this takes a lot of time and a lot of care. We used Discord to stay connected and coordinate our schedules to keep everyone on the same page. Needless to say, it was a challenge that we faced and overcame quite successfully, I would say. Finally, we had the product backlog. This is basically just a to-do list of future features and things that need to be done on the project. So it was a challenge keeping up with this product backlog and then also handling new requests that simultaneously came in. This taught us to stay flexible throughout the project.
We faced many lessons through this project, and one of the lessons that we learned was the importance of iterative development. So we were able to break the project down into smaller steps so that we were able to accomplish our sprints each week and provide the team with what we had accomplished and were able to put forward towards the project. Everyone worked on their own piece and fixed and improved things as we went along. Collaboration and communication was another lesson learned as when problems arise, we were able to ask the team for help and use the time aside during Discord meetings or outside of our regular time meetings to help the team during their during any issues that may have happened. Staying in contact so nothing had fell behind. So the importance of attending each classroom that was scheduled in each meeting that we had attended on Discord was a big part. So making sure we were all on progress with each sprint that we had went through each week. The importance of clean commits, so making sure our changes were easy to understand each time that we had committed them through GitHub, which was a website where your team or other developers save your work so other people can see them. Helping teammates follow like what was done throughout the week and preventing any confusion or messy mistakes so that when we were able to merge or when it was time to merge, we were able to see any previous issues that may be holding up um, the commit to fully code through. And coordinating code, making sure that everyone's work was organized, it stayed on topic, and it stayed on task for what we were supposed to do for that week. Making sure that any changes didn't conflict during the merging process. And if there was changes or merges that did not, that did conflict, we were able to get through them during our class time or during at least our Discord meetings. And then putting all the pieces together just to make sure that the project worked in the end. So merging all the branches that we had individually into one big team branch and then seeing all of our individual pieces play a role in making it come together. Some of the favorite parts of this project was the end result. So creating the wireframe from the beginning, from Angela's basic form and seeing everything that needed to be implemented into the overall form digitally at the end and seeing it all come together as we all worked on individual pieces was really nice to see it all come and work as one. Working as a team and solving real world problems. So being able to handle our merge conflicts or any discrepancies within our code amongst ourselves. And if things really were like out of hand, we were able to work with Nikki and get our problem solved within a timely manner that didn't affect our future sprints. And then the fact that it's going to be utilized in the future by other students and other faculty, and knowing that this project is going to be implemented for future use is really nice so that we know that all this work that we have done is going to be a part of something bigger, even if it's just the base foundation right now.
All right, so now we're moving on to the demo portion of this app. I got it pulled up here. So this is kind of what it looks like from the home page. Obviously, you'll select this birth registry tab, and you have two options. So we have the search, which I'll demonstrate first, and then there's a bunch of information you can enter here. If you enter no information, you can see all of the birth registries, and then that would look the same as if you just entered the archive normally. And then we can also search for a mother, like so. Oh, sorry. Here. And search for a mother, and they'll pop up. And you can also search for a specific newborn. Oops. Hit the wrong button there. Search for a specific newborn, and then that'll also pop up with the same mother. And then going over some of like the tabs here, we have the ability to create a new registry. If you don't find the birth registry that you're looking for inside the search tab, there's a status indicator of it being complete or incomplete. We have the option to delete it, which pulls up this little modal and asks for user confirmation. There's an option to view it, but we're going to do the edit portion first so you guys can see that. This is kind of what it looks like in edit mode. If we already have specific data in here, such as a patient information, we don't want the user editing this, as they should do it inside of the other modules that are inside the health system. So this is kind of what it looks like with most of that information filled in. You have the option to save on each tab. So clicking this will save the data, and you get a little information right here. Same thing with all of the other tabs, but I'll just give a brief overview of what they look like. This is the certifier of birth, or the signature of birth, and then the same save facility information is here. The father details, you can edit the father because it's not a patient in the database, so this can be manually entered, and then you get little green check marks if it matches the validation. All of this can be entered too, and then of course you can save it. This is kind of what the prenatal details look like. And then this is the newborn details. Same thing with the patient in the database, so this can't be edited. This is kind of what that looks like. And this is labor and delivery. Going through each modal, you can see all of these are saved into here. And then this is the final section. So saving this, so you enter your name, and then you can save it, and then finalization saved. And from here on, we can go to the view mode, and see, it looks a little bit different than the edit mode. Obviously, all of these input fields are already set, so they're disabled, so you can't enter your own information now. And then just going through these real quick here. It's a little bit different than the edit mode. And then the finalize tab. And then this is the printing functionality. Hope this pops up. So this is what it looks like when you go to print the document. It has everything all detailed in a nice little form here. And then I believe that is it for our presentation. So if anyone has any questions, that's it.
Before we go to questions, Angela, I saw you were on the call. Would you like to take a few minutes and talk about your experience with the team this semester?
So it was a lot of fun working with them.
Your
One
mic
of
is
the
really
things
cutting out, Angela.
I'm having a lot of internet trouble. Can you hear me better now?
Just a tiny little bit better.
Go ahead and talk amongst yourselves. We'll see if it.
All right, we'll give Angela a minute or two to get her audio sorted out there. But do we have any questions for the team? Drew, I'm sure you have thoughts seeing this come full circle.
What are you saying? Um, I had three questions that came up in my head. One of them is y'all talked about roles. Is that all you did? Or was there crossover? Did y'all like share those experiences? Or if the Scrum Master was the Scrum Master, did they not touch any code and only do stories and sort of project management type stuff? Or how do you guys think about that?
So I was the developer too, in addition to being a Scrum Master. So I did a lot of the coding as well and kind of coordinating everything and making sure it worked and testing. I was just as much of a developer as the rest of the developers.
Cool. And that's what I expect. I guess the inverse would be for the developers. Did they get any hands-on into like creating user stories and story pointing and planning sprints and any of those efforts?
They definitely played a role. We all kind of worked together and just everything seemed to work out pretty well. It just
Good.
these are just titles basically.
Yeah, the fun part with titles is as someone who doesn't know anything about what y'all are doing officially, it it sets a precedent and I assumed it was what you're saying, but just wanted to check. Um, One of the things, Emily, you mentioned was clear commits and iteration. I would love to know how you guys actually accomplish that. Like, I agree completely. My team highly focuses and values that, but how did you actually accomplish it?
So each sprint, we basically divided up our tasks based on our previous one, what we needed to improve upon, what needed to be added, what Angela gave us feedback on and needed to be implemented into the site itself. And we were able to take those and break them down into little smaller tasks. And each time that we were able to get our end working on our branch, our Scrum Master, Mitchell, was able to merge it with our team branch and make sure that everyone's code from their individual branches worked successfully with the team branch itself. So ensuring that the team branch stayed working at all times and then going through everybody's individual code, making sure their code isn't breaking, working with the team branch itself on its own, and then combining them all.
I
I was going to
Mike,
ask.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dan. That's fine. Are we both being too polite? Is that what's happening?
No, fine.
All right.
This is Mike. Can you hear
Go
me?
ahead, Mike.
Oh, hey. So yeah, I just had a question regarding the project. Where did you find where was your bottleneck as a team, and how did you overcome it? As far as when you went through the whole project, was there a certain area that you said that this kind of you guys had to really come together to work through it? Did it pretty much work smoothly with you delegating your tasks? Where did you find a bottleneck in this whole project?
I would say the post method seemed to be pretty problematic. So I guess collaborating together on how we would save data was a big importance and just working together. I mean, finding time outside of class to help other developers that were struggling was
was crucial, and
Mhm.
just be as helpful as we can, and just to make sure everything was staying uniform and consistent, and that we didn't veer too far off from each other's code was important to us.
Good. I thought that would be the answer because in the real world context, as a contractor, we deal with that a lot. Towards the post end, you start to kind of find those little bottlenecks in implementation. So, with you guys getting experience with that now, it kind of helps you become better in the future, especially out in your field. So, it's good to hear that. Brittany, it's all you.
Oh, awesome. No, I was going to ask if there was anything that you feel like during your previous courses that would have helped you a little bit better coming into this capstone, because I know a lot of it is learning kind of on the job in a lot of ways. You're picking up someone else's work. But is there anything that you feel like you might have benefited from more experience from that we could, bake into the curriculum that we already have to help support future students that continue to work on this project?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I would say that this was one of the few times throughout the program where I was working with a team of developers on the same code base. I think it would be beneficial to maybe introduce a little more of that earlier on in the program, where you would have to collaborate with another person on a project and use the same code base, get familiar with the version control and collaborating together.
Awesome. Thanks.
Angela, did you get your audio sorted?
I hope so. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. I actually pulled an external mic. Usually I just use what's on my laptop. Yeah, so I guess the first thing that I want to say is I see a lot of people on here. Drew and Matt were involved in the project way, way back when we first started with the birth registry, which is how the whole EHR concept came about in the first place. So it's really kind of fun to work on this full circle and going back to this project. The team was really good to work with. We met on a pretty regular basis and we spent a lot of time communicating in Discord when they had questions. But one of the things that I was really impressed with was I gave them a stack of forms in PDF. It's really three separate forms that they were working with, and having them be able to figure out how those forms work together in this electronic version was really cool. The other thing that I really appreciated was how they have the statuses of the different documents, because it's not something that you just go in and complete. Oftentimes you have to go in, you have to interview the mother, get some information, you have to go and look at their worksheets and add information. So there's a lot of different sources of information, and there's different people that contribute to it. So you've got the registrar who's putting in most of the registry information, but you also have a physician who would be the certifier of the birth, who validates that the birth indeed took place. So they had some of those kinds of challenges of trying to figure out who is actually filling out what. So having that status where it can be in progress is kind of cool. The other challenge that I know that they really had to work on, that looks like they got it worked out pretty well, is that most of the patients that they're going to be doing a registry on come from our main EHR database. So bringing in the patient information so they didn't have to duplicate it without overwriting what was in our other database in the EHR itself, because this is really a different system per se. So being able to do that and knowing that the mom and or the baby are probably patients, but they don't necessarily have to be. We might be certifying a birth that was born outside of our facility, that where the baby was never admitted for whatever reason. So there were a lot of interesting challenges, and they really seemed to understand what I was saying and what I was asking for. So yeah, it was really cool. And it was nice to come back to this project. We had set it aside for a while because the whole system needed to be updated. I can't remember. It's all technical stuff that's behind the scenes that I know nothing about. But it pretty much, when we did that upgrade, it broke almost the entire system. So we've been without it for a while, so it'll be nice to get it back again.
Hey, Angela, when you mentioned, I know there was database obstacles. I was looking for the word
Mhm.
obstacle in the presentation. I saw database. So was that it, getting that data and getting that data migrated? Was that probably the biggest database obstacle that you guys had?
I can't speak to that on behalf of the team,
Okay.
but I don't think that was necessarily the issue. I think it's the fact that the other system is already built. And they were working with pre-existing data and tables. So I don't know if it was so much of a migration. They can probably speak to that better than I can.
Okay, well, was there somebody that was kind of
Yeah,
focused on the
yeah, there
database?
were yeah, there were quite a few database obstacles that we had to overcome, such as scaffolding and migrations, creating new entities, things like that, definitely.
And also like reading previous entities that were already implemented in the database for patients or for certain like tooltips that we had utilized for the forms. So being able to read previous code and implement it into the code that we have now so that it worked throughout the whole site was also nice.
I mean, out in the industry, in the field, that's a common thing, especially if you got data in another format, even if it's a heterogeneous type format, getting that data transformed, getting things common. Yeah.
All right, we got time for one last question for this team, if anybody has one.
I've got one more quick one if nobody does. It was kind of off of Drew's question about the Scrum. Did you get to use any of those Scrum type or tools such as Trello or Jira when you did this, or and create your
So
backlog, your product backlog in
yeah,
any of
so
those
we
tools?
basically utilized a Kanban board off of GitHub to organize the project and backlog and everything.
Okay.
It was very helpful once we got the
Hmm.
hang of it.
Awesome. Thank you, team. We will let you off the hook. And our next team up, yeah, everybody's clapping. Our starter application team. Take it away when you are ready.
Go ahead and share here. All right. So we are the Docker App Starter group, and we'll go ahead here and get on with our presentation. My name is Joseph. I acted as a Scrum Master over the course of this project. My main contributions to our project was the user and role management, and then also setting up and configuring Docker.
I'm Stephanie. I was a developer as well, and I did a lot of the front end styling, setting up Beautify to get the WCTC, my gosh, the WCTC theme set up and connecting the front end to the back end to make sure it was pulling things correctly.
I was muted. I'm Jacob. I was also a developer. I did a lot of the back end, the API, setting up the database, things of that nature.
So when starting a new project, there's a significant amount of setup that has to be completed before any of the features can be built. So this includes getting the sign-in system in place, establishing the layout, setting up any user and role management, and creating the core structure that the project is going to rely on. So all of these pieces are necessary, and together they create a substantial amount of upfront work at the beginning of a project. To address this, we built a starter application that already includes that foundational setup. So this project is designed so that the next team can pick it up and continue building from a solid established base. We structured the app using a combination of tools and technologies. We use Docker to package the project, and then we use .NET for the back end with Vue for the front end as a single page application. And then we also use SQL Server for the database and SAS for styling. We also made sure that we documented the code so that the next team can understand how everything was organized and how they can extend it when moving forward.
The reason we worked on this project is, as Stephanie said, each application needs to be set up and integrated with WCTC services such as single sign-on and other services like that. And that setup takes a significant amount of time and resources that could be better spent elsewhere. But with our app, that setup will no longer be necessary. We have a template that'll essentially do all of that work for developers so they can focus on doing the core features of their application, which will result in faster and less costly development for applications.
So throughout the semester, we faced a few challenges and we also learned a lot. So for me personally, I learned a lot more with GitHub, especially with working as a team and merging branches together so that my code would seamlessly integrate into the team branch along with Jacob and Joseph's code without causing any major problems. The hardest part was connecting the .NET backend with the Vue front end. That took us actually a couple weeks to get it started. And the favorite part was getting the Beautify themes working and seeing it all come together.
All right, for me, my biggest learnings definitely was Docker setup and configuration, and then also setting up Nginx. It's been mentioned but before, but Docker was used to package everything or package the application and its dependencies in a lightweight format. And it also simplifies the deployment, scaling, and management of the application. And due to just the project structure, how it all works, it does get served on an HTTP link. So by having the Nginx acting as a reverse proxy, we can serve it on an HTTPS link. That way users have a safe and encrypted connection. The hardest part of the project for me was definitely setting up the user and role management, all of the broken down tasks coming together for those two definitely took me the most time out of anything else that I worked on over the course of the project. And then my favorite part ties into the hardest part. I do love a challenge, something that's going to take me a while, something that I have to learn more about. So getting that all set up and seeing it get completed was definitely a highlight of the project. And then also towards the end, as we transitioned into authentication, being based around permissions rather than just the roles themselves was a highlight as well. And it aids in making the application more configurable and customizable within the app rather than having to go into the code and change a small, minute detail.
The one thing I learned from the project, the biggest thing I learned was how to work with databases beyond just making simple queries. Because before this, I have worked with databases, but it wasn't something that really clicked for me. It was definitely my weakest, like knowledge wise, that was my weakest point. But this project had me working on database setup using the stored info actually in an application, which was something that wasn't necessarily new. It was something that I definitely needed more practice with. And through this project, it definitely helped me learn how to be more comfortable with that. I'd say the hardest part for me was using GitHub in a team environment, all of the separate branches. I'd never really made a branch in GitHub before. I've only ever used it to upload assignments and such. So things like merges, pushes, pulls, all of that was all new to me, and it was really hard for me to learn. But my favorite part of the application was seeing the front end connect with the back end smoothly, seeing all of the things I was doing on the back end actually show up within the application, and knowing I was actually doing it correctly. Because like I said, that was a big thing I had to learn.
All right, and then I will go ahead here with our demo of our application. So again, it is a starter app. So our entire project here acts as a template or a blank canvas for future projects. So everything is pretty styled after just the general WCTC theme. So you'll notice that throughout our app here. But this is the home page. So this is where all users are going to land on the application. Over here in the Manage tab, we've got a Manage Users link. Sorry about that. Manage Users. We're met here with a nice styled users list, a search bar, and of course, add new users. We only have 11 users currently, but the way we've got nice pagination. So if we go to the next page, there's only one user. and we can increase that. So you see that was added there. It's only showing 11, so it doesn't look like a whole lot changed, but I promise it does. For the searching, it's going to update that list automatically. So if we want to look at all of our test users, we can search like that. But we can also search by first name. We can search by last name, by role. I can spell it right. And then adding a new user. We can enter things that we would need, right? So email, the WCTC ID, first, last name, phone number, but it is optional along with their roles. All new users are assigned the user role by default, but we can change that and also give users multiple roles. So if you wanted to have someone with all roles or just have an admin, we can do it that way. And then the edit looks very similar to adding a new user. Of course, just editing the information of an existing user. Going into the managing roles here, the three roles we currently have are admin, manager, and user, but we can go ahead and create a new one. We can just call it test role for now. Editing, all we can do is edit the name of the role. It simply acts just as a label for the role. We click view users. We can see here in the admin role, there's only 3, but we can search for all of our other users as well and add them in that way, or remove users there. If we click view permissions, that's going to bring up a list of all permissions that we can assign to roles. So the admin role has all permissions, but if we go to, say, the user, you can see users, users with just the user role are only allowed to view home and manage users. We can delete roles as well. Moving over then to the user. User profile here is going to show a nice card displaying the user's name, their first and last name, their email. If they have a phone number, it would be shown up there. And then their role. Users are allowed to edit their own first and last name and their phone number, but not their email. We also have a dark mode, which of course works across all pages. And then we did mention earlier our app uses the WCTC single sign-on. So if I go ahead and log out here of the application, close that, open up a new window, it redirects to that WCTC sign-on. So we can log in with my student account. And here we are back on the home page. So that would be it for the demo. We'll have some comments here from Nikki, our product owner, and then following with any questions.
So I also served as the product owner for this team. One of the things that I have noticed as the instructor on this course is every time we start a new project, the students spend, I don't know, 8, 10 of the 12 weeks that they spend on this project building the same thing over and over again. And it had become like, okay, this is really, well, it's wasting a lot of time because we have students building the same thing repeatedly. So let's set up a project where we give each new group a template and they can take this and they can move forward with it. So I had a lot of specific requirements of this team to meet what our IT department has told us we can do. And so some of the things are like, well, do we really have to do it this way? I'm like, yes, I've been told we have to do it this way. So these are the constraints that we have. And the team was really flexible and accommodating. And I love how clean the product turned out. As I've learned being married to somebody who designs websites, design takes way more time than I would ever think that it does. And I think Stephanie learned that too as she went through and styled things. And the clean design is not an accident. That took a really long time for the students to get through. So I was really happy with the end result we had here. And with that, I'm going to open it up to anyone for questions.
I just want to thank you all for doing that work. I'm sure that this project doesn't feel very impactful because you weren't working on like an existing system that we're already doing, but this is going to make such a huge difference for all of the students coming forward. And it looks really clean, really well organized, really well structured. So thanks for building that. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. I was gonna say to
Um,
build on what Brittany was saying, this isn't like the sexy cool project necessarily, but sometimes those are the projects that are the most important. And you made something, to Brittany's point, that is going to be really impactful moving forward to have that firm starting point so that, students in this class in the future aren't going to have to take a week or two of development time to go through and do this. It's really going to jumpstart things along the lines. And sometimes we don't always get to do all the fun, cool stuff that has all the stuff that everyone wants to see, and they're going to point to, the plumbing is just as important, even if it's not necessarily as exciting. So really nice job, y'all.
Thank you. I think I can definitely speak for our whole team. When we got our project, we were very confident that we were going to be done in 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks. And then towards the end, we were like, yeah, this is definitely a very valuable project. So we can definitely see the importance of it for future projects.
I have a question. The Docker part. So are you guys using that just to test the deployment, or are you using that the entire time that you're developing?
During development, yeah. So it was set up. That was one of the very first things set up, other than the connection for the single page application of Vue and .NET. Um, and then as we continued adding things, it was always kept up with configuration. So that was used the whole time during development.
So then you're not using the built-in development environment of Visual Studio?
We did use um, the blanking. I'm sorry. Like running it via .NET, the .NET command, but not the Visual Studio.
Oh, that's what I meant, the .NET command.
Okay. Okay.
So then the Docker, is that just pretending to be the front end server, or is it also hosting your database and everything else?
No, just for the front end.
Okay.
So your job was to make it easier for everybody else so everybody else can have more fun in the future. And students in the future can make more applications to be used on campus than ever before, which is pretty awesome. My question is, what kind of documentation are you or instructions are you handing off? Is there anything you can share with us? Or
Yeah.
okay, because that actually will be as much gold as what you built.
Yeah. So there was a point in the beginning of our project where we all tried to keep up and up to date with the documentation as we were building out new features, kind of explaining ways to run things, especially with technologies maybe students aren't as comfortable with or don't have as much experience with. And then we circled back to that over the past 2 weeks. I've been spending a lot of time working on that. So there's a lot of information about how the database is set up, how the single page application connects, via .NET and Vue. There's a good amount of explanation as well on the Docker setup, and then other details as well, such as the styling.
Joseph, did you want to just share out and show Matt a quick
Oh,
example?
yeah, for sure. Let me pull it up.
Nikki, you're supposed to have waiting music.
I'm sorry, I don't have the cool setup like Patrick does. I have a student in one of my classes that always will sing the Jeopardy theme song for me when we're waiting.
It was
She's
going
not
in my
here.
mind, but I resisted.
Here was our documentation file. I'll skim through it. It is a little bit long, So we've got everything listed here as far as technology used for the back end, front end. There's links to documentation as well. If future groups have questions on things. Um, Here is the portion about Docker, how to run it, the configuration and the app settings to use the WCTC host, the database. Here is some documentation on the SAML authentication for the WCTC sign-on, so the different endpoints, and then the error handling, as well as JWT token. Here's a list of all the current permissions. Further down, here is more information on Docker configuration. Within the Docker file, the different stages are listed as well, just as comments, so it's easy to match these up. Here are some Docker commands as well. Overall project structure. These should be pretty known. Commands. Here's some more database migration. Here's all the endpoints as well. So everything in here is designed for future groups to be able to glance over it, or if they have a question, they can go and look at the documentation. Again, because it is a template, there's nothing too advanced or too in depth. So it's all very simple endpoints and API links. So those are all listed there. Here are the codes for the styling we used. Did that answer your question, or did I?
No, that helps. Thank you.
Okay, I want to make sure I didn't miss the point.
Drew, what do you think? Did they get it?
So I think you guys don't understand how critical this is. In the Java ecosystem, there's an entire website built that accomplishes this, does this for people building Java applications. It's called Spring Initializer. You guys built the first version of that for WCTC, and it saves engineers thousands of hours a week, would be an understatement. So kudos. I have two questions. One of them is going to be a suggestion to Nikki that you guys should create for her of how on earth does this stay current? Because the worst thing about something like this ecosystem is that tomorrow someone's going to deploy a new version of one of the packages or dependencies, or the database is going to get updated, or Docker is going to change their commands. So that's one thing that I don't know if you guys have it, but if you don't have it, you should write a recommendation for Nikki and the other faculty to adopt to keep this current so that value is realized. The other thing I'd love to know is what made the front end and back end hard? Where's the front? I'd love to know technically where are the front end assets being served from? Are they served from like a static directory like S3, or are you actually serving them from your .NET backend? And what made that difficult for y'all?
Stephanie, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so connecting the back end to the front end while making it a single page application was very hard. And we actually spent a couple of weeks trying to get that. And even Nikki was trying to help us find documentation. And we didn't really find a whole lot. Actually, me and Joseph collaborated on getting the front end to connect to the back end from like a Reddit thread. We had to really search on how to get it to connect. Um,
So
so
what'd you end up doing to get it to connect? Can you give me the 140 character solution?
yeah, Joseph, did you want to take that since you ended up getting that part working?
Yeah. Um, I think um, I think that one Reddit thread uh, saved us like hours or maybe even another week of just trial and error. There was a link to a project hosted on GitHub that had it connected. So we took a look at that. Spent a lot of time looking at it. I can't remember the exact process that it took, but it was very simple to go ahead and kind of not copy paste, but copy paste how they had set it up, and that's the solution we went through just or went for just because of how long it had taken us. prior through our own trial and error. All of the Microsoft documentation was for older versions of .NET, or you click the link for the newer version and it takes you to something that was posted years ago.
Yeah. So to sort of break it down, fundamentally, as long as your front end assets are relative and served from your back end, everything just works. And it sounds like it's that simple, but welcome to the world of technology
Yeah.
where all the simple things are really, really complex until you realize how simple they are, and you just have to do it right. So way to persist, guys. That is frustrating. But this is a really impactful project. I don't think you guys realize the impact you've had on future classes and the college as a whole.
All right, we
Joseph,
got
that,
time for
oh,
one more.
can I steal it?
Sure, go ahead.
Joseph, that README documentation was extremely professional, looked very industry standard. I was wondering if you worked with AI to generate it based on just the structure of your project, and it could kind of just scrape that from there, or did you hand script that whole thing?
Sure. So I mean, I'll be honest, it was a little bit of both. For the project structure, I mean, I did not write that out and all the special characters for that.
Yeah,
But
thanks.
I do have a bit of loving instruction on good documentation and README. Um, for my internship last summer, I was developing like very small but still full stack applications for use in our office. And the person who I was working with and who was helping me along the way was very, very strict about how documentation is written. So, I mean, verbiage, layout, all of that. I definitely did play a part and helped me write a lot of it.
Awesome.
I wasn't the only one who contributed to the README. The entire team did as well. Um, but yeah, it was a little bit of both.
Yeah, I just kind
Great.
of followed off of what Joseph started because I really am a guideline person. So once I see how he got it structured, I was just kind of trying to build off of it to make sure that the Viewtify theme and everything was fitting in correctly with his documentation.
Awesome. Yeah, it looked really great. And I would say, to, Drew's point, if you guys were struggling to maybe understand exactly how you were putting things together, but you got it to work, you could always bounce it back against AI and ask it to help you understand it more so you get that deeper understanding. Great work, team.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And last but not least, our welding data team.
I keep
Say that
forgetting
again, Nick.
that.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I got confused. I was like, which one's my? Because I have my laptop, so the quality of my camera is a little better and my mic, but all the stuff's on my PC, so I just brain freeze right there. Um, let me share. All right, is everyone able to see my screen?
Yep.
All right, let's begin. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Welding Data App presentation, the app that we've worked on over the past semester. I'm Zach Stepp. I was the data engineer on this project. I'm the sole data student in this class, graduating in spring.
Hi, I'm Kwon Henry Nguyen. I'm a software engineer, and I'll be graduating this fall. So our problem, the existing product had room for growth with newly available data, including finer levels of details and more simplistic user interaction. We needed to make the app better than its alternative, Checkpoint.
So our app is a application to show welding data fresh out of the Lincoln welding machines on campus and display it to students and instructors in class as a way to get real-time feedback or look back on previous welds to basically see how they did. And the reason that we're developing this app is to make a better alternative to Checkpoint, which is more for production environments, and expand upon the previous project from last semester where they got us a good foundation but didn't have that live data feed. So, what does our welding app actually have to offer? We have detailed metrics that were requested by our instructors. This included welding concepts that we weren't previously familiar with, but as we went into the welding lab ourselves, and actually I welded for the first time, I believe Henry did as well, we got a little bit more familiar with those concepts, and it was a lot of fun. No reliance on the user for data import. This was a restriction of the last project, but we were able to eliminate it so that there couldn't be any room for user error in that front, and some simple schedule customization for instructors so that they're able to set their own classes and start and end dates so that it can line up with some of the features of our app and they can easily search welds. So, what value does our updated app actually bring? On the left here, you see a screenshot of the previous app, and at the bottom, there was an upload for basically Excel spreadsheets taken from Checkpoint. Now, this was the main thing that we eliminated, and we had a lot of opportunity for growth in this because we're bringing in new data that was more detailed than previously available. So by automating this process, we could visualize in more detail and make a better education tool that is not just the same as Checkpoint. As you can see as well, their front dashboard has the different booths that the students were using. And previously, you could click in and see a long timeline of how the booth is used over time. Now we're able to see in detail how an individual weld went over a course of a minute or a couple of seconds, as well as the versatility and user needs as not just an app for instructors, but this is also something that we want students to be able to use and see feedback in real time during class or ask their instructor, hey, could you pull up this weld that I just did so I could see how it was scored or maybe some of the metrics on it. So the business problems that we solved, I would say, were split into two categories. First, the new data that we brought in from the welding machines and what it allowed for us, as well as new features that we developed. The newly available data let us automate that data pipeline. As you can see on the right there, the user would have had to download those Excel sheets from Checkpoint and get very recent live data. So without the need for that process, they could also just see in real time in the actual app uh, point in time data. So the last couple of seconds or whatever the school wants to, however often they want to update it, I guess, under restrictions of how often we're running our procedures, I guess, and more detailed analysis of each weld, like previously mentioned, a few calculated and more analytical concepts, as well as just displaying everything nicely for the instructors and students to see. The new features included the elimination of outside schedule management. This was a business problem where previously the students working on the project would have had to ask the instructor, hey, what's your schedule for this semester so that we can fill that out for you? And they could go back and see all their welds in the different classes. Now that's something that the instructor can set up themselves and maybe customize it to their own needs, and searching for any welds based on the date and time. Previously, you would only search based on the semester or the course, but if somebody is doing some welding maybe outside of class time and they want to go back and see how they were doing, this opens up that opportunity, as well as features for non-instructors like a live feed or anybody really being able to access the app.
Our challenges. So we have three main major challenges. One is the lack of manpower and time constraint. Uh, we were a team of two, and in 12 weeks we had to build pretty much a whole new system because we had to switch from an old technology to a new one. And our second challenge was we had no background in welding. So we had to learn the industry in order to understand the user needs. I did not understand voltage and amperage and any of that. I know about it, but how they work together, we had no clue. So we had to learn in order to build our app. And third, we had to switch from our old technology to a new one, which we have to adapt quickly in order to continue this project within our time constraint.
Fortunately, overcoming these roadblocks, we were able to learn a lot. Prioritizing user needs over any fancy ideas that we came up with was definitely early on something we had to overcome. And using tools like our product backlog helped break things up and better understand what our product owner and what students and instructors actually will need using our app. Bridging the gap between our specialized skills. I am a data student. Henry is in software development. I definitely did a lot more work in the back end while Henry was doing the front end, and it became difficult to meet in the middle. But when we overcame that, we had a really good system for it, and I'd say we both learned a lot from it. And I personally got a bit of experience in front end, and it was actually a lot of fun. Lastly, focusing on how the app will actually be used. This is something I felt was somewhat unique to this project, as normally you'd think for a web app, this is just something that somebody's going to sit down and use. The application of our app is more for in a classroom, you might have it up on a few displays, you might have people coming up to the instructor asking for feedback, and this is something that we had to keep in mind every step of the way. I think you're muted, Henry.
Whoops. Um, my favorite parts of the project was using a front-end framework allows the ability to build a more complex system. A front-end framework is just a modern tool that helps us build websites. I also really enjoy the one-on-one teamwork that me and Zach have. There was a time when I was working on something and one of the data was wrong, and Zach came up at midnight because I work at a weird time. And our communication, since it's one-on-one, it was direct and it was effortless. So that was fun.
Absolutely, I'd agree with that one. I definitely enjoyed building out the back end from scratch. That's something I enjoy about many of my projects in data, just starting from the sort of gross, unstructured. We had some raw JSON that we had to eventually turn into some more usable state so that we could bring it into the app and just have it all viewed and presentable for everyone to see, as well as experiencing the full process of development. Like I said before, I've not had much experience with front end, so eventually bridging that gap and going into more of the front end and sort also as well connecting the data to it is something that I really liked to see. So that was probably my favorite part.
So I'll switch to a different tab here and show you our app. So you're presented with a login page when you land on the app, and this is role login. So there's an admin and a user. Um, this is just a skeleton. There's more stuff that we wanted to add, but we couldn't get to. So I'm gonna be logging in with an admin, and this is the TV dashboard slash main slash homepage. And this is what the instructor will put on the TV when they're in class. And this is live data that we get from the machine and gets displayed in these card format. And the next page is the instructor's dashboard. And this is a little bit different, but similar to the TV dashboard. This is what the instructor is going to have on his laptop. And this page will give us more details about the wells than the previous page. So I'm going to select the current class and it'll show the available booth. And so this is the telemetry data, and what telemetry is a collection of data in a time period. So this is like the summary of the wells. Before it was live well data, so like at 1 second it's at this voltage, but this is within a time period, and this is the summary of the data. And then these are clickable, so you can click on them and you get a more fancy display of those data as well. So you get these three sections up top. So the well setup is a different information about the wells. The performance, so arc time, current, voltage, all welding stuff. And then towards the bottom, this is the well score. So this is a gamification that we try to add to our application. Um, a machine can't score well. You have to have knowledge and different factors when you come to scoring those wells. So we did the best we can. This is just to help the instructor to see it like an overall view. So if a well score is around 70, 80, that means okay. Perfect is 100. So if someone is like scoring 50, then you want to like, go to that booth and keep an eye out. And then below it, we have this really cool chart that displays um, the time period that the whale took place in. So this one took 87 seconds. And then these are just data points of that point in time. So at 7 seconds, the wire speed was 200, I'm sorry. And you can also toggle these. So if you don't want to see anything besides the amperage, you can toggle it off. And then our next page is the history page. The history page has two type of search. We have the class search and the date search. Class search is you select the semester, the term, and then it'll find a bunch of classes for you. And then you select on one of the classes, it'll find the date. And if you select on the date, it'll show you all the wells that happen in that day. And then for the date search, it's just a date picker range. So I'm going to just select last month to this month. You just search and it'll just display all the wells within that date range. Next page is the schedule page. So we have this really cool calendar that displays the class. And as an admin, you're able to add and delete classes, but if you're a user, you can't. So I can just do a quick demo on that. And then let's just go last week to next week. And I'll select Monday, 3 to like 6. And then now Friday, 5 to 9. And so when you save, it just populate onto the calendar, and it just within that time, that date range, and then you can delete it as well. And then finally, to go back, you just log out.
So, a few future considerations. Me personally, I'm a little sad to be off the team after the semester because it was really fun working on this project. So, some of our input on maybe some next steps would be user settings slash preferences, some things like customize maybe what sort of weld modes or things specific to an instructor, things that they want to see in the app, maybe store those settings so that when they next log in, then they can more easily get the visuals that they want. some user management, maybe similar to the starter app, where we can manage whether a user is just a user or an admin, or maybe something in between where they're an instructor so they could set their own schedules, but maybe not go as far as manage users. And maybe some new analytical features, something like progress over time of a course. So maybe they want to track how their students are doing in a greater summary, or sorting by like weld modes so that you can see in the more specific context how things are going, as well as maybe some more gamification, make it a more desirable app to something like Checkpoint by introducing some fun features like customize the coloring of those calendar courses or similar features like that. Do we have any questions?
I'm just going to jump in really quick and say that the product owner, Mike Lupke from Welding, is currently teaching, so he's not able to join us to
That's
give any.
right, yeah. It was great working with him, that I can say.
Yeah, it was fun when I ran into Henry in the parking lot right after you guys had welded, and he's like, "Look, I put metal together." So I will open it up for any questions for the team.
I have a question, and if you said it in your presentation, I apologize, but I don't think you did. Will this be used in the fall, or does it have one semester to go? What's the status of it?
I think the plan is to have it available for them to test out in spring, kind of kick the tires and see where it's at. But I think we have at least one semester to go before it's fully baked.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say how awesome it is that you guys actually went and did some welding, because you're really truly seeing like the interaction that the students have with their machines, and so that you know how they're going to be using the system. I don't think you can really understand what to build your client until you like get into their shoes. So I think that that's fabulous and a really great example to set for our other projects. Is always make sure that you're working closely with your clients. So that's fabulous.
Thank you.
And Henry, you said that that scoring feature, you guys kind of like did the best you could with that because machines can't currently score them themselves. Is that something we're working towards with our AI program then?
That was actually
That was a good
something
start.
I joked about very early on. I thought, what if we had our product owner, Mike, go and score 1,000 different welds for us, and then, maybe more than that. But really, what we did is we got some just information on uh, from Lincoln Electric, and got just some suggested boundaries of these different metrics, like specifically amperage is a big one that we wanted to make sure was within bounds. So we would have these different weld modes, and it could vary greatly depending on whether, I guess, different factors come in. And there are things that Mike explained to us that we couldn't really account for, like if somebody's welding at a different angle, like vertically. I'm not sure, but something else we put into it was that in making the schedules, you could set whether a course was a beginning or advanced class. So maybe if it's the second like iteration of a course and you expect your students maybe to have a bit more accuracy, then you could set it to advanced and it scores a little bit more, I wouldn't say harshly, but a little bit more harshly.
Sure. Awesome.
Hey guys, I think it was a great job what you guys did. One thing, Zach, what you had said, you had mentioned how, you're the expert, I guess, on this, the SME, subject matter expert on your two-person team in terms of the back end, Henry in the front end, and you had mentioned it gave you the opportunity for each of you to start learning your other areas. A lot of companies, there's a big thing, it's called being a full stack developer, right? And my years at Northwestern Mutual as a lead engineer, manager, and then assistant director was to develop my staff as I always call them like T-shaped. You're deep in one thing, but you know enough about the other things so that you guys, not only can you keep things moving when you build it, but it's the support of it afterwards. It's more than just one person that can support. You guys can support both ends. I mean, kudos to you guys. I think having that skill and that mindset of being nimble and having that nimble learning, I think is a critical asset to have. Really good job with that.
Like, and we were kind of forced to, so
It happens
Thanks.
in the
And yeah,
workplace though too. So
The
I
correct
was
word
gonna
is
say,
all got to.
yeah, I was gonna say if, Michael's still on here, he works for a consulting company, and so that's what you do every day. You walk into new businesses and you have to figure out and learn their business. And so what you guys went through is perhaps one of the most valuable lessons that you can come out of here with. And I would bet you if we were to show this app off to the other 15 tech colleges that have welding programs, they would be significantly jealous
Correct.
of what you guys have put together for that group. So
thank you.
nice job.
thank you.
So I have a question, kudos, and really the real question. The first question is, did you guys know that there's a starter for WCTC projects that make it easy for you to start a new project? It sounds like you would get value from that. So just something to think about in the future.
Nice, Drew.
Will do.
Um,
Noted.
uh, you guys started with the business problem. You started with the value of why you're building what you built. For all of those presenting, that is something that I am continually learning how to not do as poorly as I did yesterday, and how we think about what projects to go build. There's a lot of cool tech out there. If it doesn't actually drive value to your customer or your business or your revenue, you shouldn't build it. And so you guys were able to frame your entire presentation with that lens. Well done. The thing I'd love to know is how are you getting the data? So you talked about like there's a welding machine and there's a UI. And I'm smart enough to know that I don't need to know all the details and I don't want to, but there's magic back there that y'all skipped over. Talk to me about it.
So I believe some of this Nikki got set up before we were handed the project, which it was something that the previous group didn't have. It uses MQTT. Uh, I'm not quite sure what that stands for, but it basically brought the data live into just a JSON format into a database separate from the one that we're now using. And then it was a lot of ETL for me, but fortunately, I don't mind that. Cracking some ETL for a few hours is, it's fun for me. So um, I don't know if there's more that you could expand on that, Nikki.
Sure. So, we actually needed our welders upgraded in order to get that data. So when we started in spring, we didn't have it. They had a connection out to the Lincoln system, but they needed new Wi-Fi modules. And we actually have contacts from Lincoln Electric that work on campus most of the time. And he's like, well, let's time out because we're giving you new welders in summer. So we got new welders, we got Wi-Fi modules. It sends via MQTT, which is a message broker. And we've got a Python script running on the server that just receives the messages and pops them over to a database for now. So, and then cue all of what Zach said there.
Yeah. So one of the challenges I have for Zach and Henry is kudos, like Brittany called out, you went and you did it, but having confidence of how your data is getting there, because from a troubleshooting standpoint, when it's data and data pipelines, if you don't have confidence to know who to go ask or what even questions to ask, it can really derail your progress and be frustrating. So well done and some opportunities to continue to grow, like Allie called out.
Thank you.
Any last questions for this team? All right, team, we'll let you off the hook. Any final thoughts, comments, questions for the group as a whole? I see a lot of clapping on screen.
Just super ridiculously proud of you all as usual. way to make it to the finish line and do an excellent job. And looking forward to see what you guys do in the future.
Congratulations, everyone. You guys did an amazing job. Thank you so much to Nikki and our other instructors too for guiding the students to where they're at. We appreciate you all.
I'd like to also say congratulations to you guys. Not too long ago, well, a few years ago, I was in your same boat, and you guys did an awesome job. It's just amazing to see how, as time progresses, a lot of the students continue to develop new skills, and you're going to be a great asset to whatever companies you guys work for now or consider working for.
Thank you, everybody. And that's a wrap. Woo! You made it to the end. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Hopefully, we'll see you next time.
Go celebrate, everyone.
Capstone team, don't celebrate quite yet. I
Yeah.
got a last couple things
When
for you
Nikki
before you
says you
leave.
can celebrate, you can celebrate.
Bye, everyone.
And that's us and Matt. All right.